Thank you. I thank Dr. Gropper and the department for arranging this memorial service in honor of my husband, Ted, and I thank all of you for being here today, some from considerable distances. He took great joy in the work that he did on the development of modern inhaled anesthetics, and he would be very pleased with this gathering here today. After Ted's death, I got notes from friends all over the world and colleagues. I was planning to read some of those notes, but Ted's daughter, Renee, my muse, said she thought you would rather know something more personal about him rather than the obvious things that you all know about his work. And my daughter-in-law, Shawnee, added I should include things that I would want you to know about Ted. So I agreed with those comments and made the changes, and I'll share with you a little bit about our 21 wonderful years together. A few things that about him don't fit in pictures well. He valued education and encouraged it for his children and grandchildren. He said it was the great equalizer, as do I. He loved theater, ballet, and poetry, would read poetry to me in bed at night, carried poetry books on our trips. One of his favorites was a collection of poems by Phyllis McGinley. He was also partial to Edna St. Vincent Millay. Also, we had an ongoing cribbage tournament that went on when we started every trip and ended when we got back from every trip. And after years and years of cribbage tournaments, they came out pretty even in terms of wins and losses, as you would expect for a game that depends mostly on chance. So I'd like to share with you some things about Ted, his characteristics, creativity, and the sense of humor. Maybe this is one aspect of him you didn't know. And another, when he was very creative when we would go on hikes, wanted to try everything out. And this one, we had, this is taken at our home, we had pigeons in the tree out there, and he got this little BB gun, and he shot at a pair of them, and he hit one, and it died. It fell off the branch and died. And then its mate kept coming back and sitting on that branch over there. And then we were in Hawaii, and he needed to dry his bathing suit. And then he liked playing with the grandchildren and with the dogs and creating things. And then they gave the dogs treats. And one thing he used to do, he had a wonderful voice. He was in a barbershop quartet when he was in college. And with his children, he used to go to their bedrooms and sing to them every night. And when we were getting together, they would know all these songs by heart.
All right, here's the Peanut song. Oh, a peanut sitting on a railroad track, his heart was all aflutter. Along came engine number 9, choo 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 choo, peanut butter. Huckleberry sits in the old gum tree, counting all the monkeys he can see. Stop, Huckleberry, stop, Huckleberry, that's not a monkey, that's me.
Another thing he loved was hiking in the high Sierras and backpacking, and we did that year after year. He loved it. You can just see the joy on his face doing that. And for his 75th birthday, we hiked a part of the John Muir Trail with all our family, And we climbed, most of us climbed Half Dome, and there's a picture of us on top of Half Dome. Not up the front, up the back side. And another family picture. And there he is. It's our son Paul swimming, and Ted's huddled up in his puffy green jacket, which he would wear all the time. Family was always very important to him. Here's our family photo from Roatan 2 years ago. 30 people of our family all gathered in Roatan, which is an island off from British Honduras. Many of those people are here right now. Another family picture. This is at Picnic Rock on Mount Tam. And then we would go to Grand Rapids every other Thanksgiving. And so Thanksgivings were wonderful holidays for us. So there we are in Grand Rapids. And then we would go to Sharon, and you can see what his task always was, making the gravy. And we went to a bat mitzvah in Masada for one of our granddaughters. And here he is having fun with the grandson. And he was a good cook, too. We used to cook together on the weekends and make food enough for the week. And there he is cooking in our kitchen. And he loved, he had orchards, and we had apricot trees, and we got grand harvests from our apricot trees and made pies from these that we took to people for house gifts. Some things we didn't let the guests know. Another place that he loved was Mendocino. His heart sang there. We went there a couple times every year. And there we are on the headlands in Mendocino. What did you see? Now this is the goalpost stand. What does it mean, the goalpost? Huh? And here he is taking pictures of the family in front of Mendocino, looking for the birds at another picnic rock. And one of our favorite hiking trails there is the Fern Canyon Trail, which is a round trip about 6 miles, and there's a waterfall at the end of it. You always take your picture in front of the waterfall. Another place that he loved was Hawaii, and this was my favorite place, the Kihei coast of Maui. This is the view from our condo there, and there's us with the goalpost again in front of the reef that's right in front of our condo, where you can go snorkeling right there. But work was never far away, even in Hawaii. Another thing he loved was hiking, and we did a lot of that together. Here's a picture of us out at Point Reyes when the flowers were particularly beautiful. And here's the ridge that's right behind our house and our 2 dogs. So we can go right out our door and be in one of the most beautiful spots in the world. He enjoyed painting, and this last year we started taking painting classes together, and we're continuing those to this day. We have a painting gathering at our house once a month, and so here's one of his pictures. It's a picture of ducks, and another one, it's a copy of a bonaire. But then other people are going to talk more about his work, but I'll just mention a couple of things that were important to him. He would give talks to the residents, And this past year, he gave a talk to the class of 2018, and they loved it. They wanted their picture taken with him, so they took their picture with him, and then they wanted to give him a gift. And he said, okay, I would like a cup with this picture on it. So they gave him a cup, and they put Eger's on the cup. And it was one of his most favorite gifts that he's ever gotten, was from these kids from 2018 class. And he always loved talking to his colleagues. He would get very excited and into the conversations, and it was just something that was so Ted and so much what he loved so much. And then finally, writing this book, The Wondrous History of Anesthesia, was a project that lasted over 5 years and resulted in a great treasure contribution to the anesthesia community. We also did travel. We did travel like a lot of people here do probably. Our travel would be when he's invited to a meeting or I'm invited to a meeting, and then we would go to that place. So that's how we did our travel. We went to the Pantanal. He was invited to give a talk in Brazil, and so went to the Pantanal. This is a very rare photo because he does not like horses. He will not get on a horse, but for the purposes of the photo, he did it. And we went to Costa Rica. That was one that was not a work travel. Patagonia. Acropolis, that I was invited to give a talk in Greece, and that was one of my talks. He was invited to give a talk in Newfoundland, and we went there. And Santorini. Took a trip on the Rocky Mountaineer and ended up in Calgary. And the karsts on the Li River in southern China. So one thing that Shawnee suggested was to pass a message that Ted would like to pass on. And this quote from Calvin Coolidge, not a great president, but the quote was meaningful to Ted. And he said, "Nothing in this world takes the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is also a proverb, almost a proverb. Education will not. And the world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination are omnipotent." So he was working on 2 books. One, the Autobiography of a Persistent Anesthesiologist. This book is about to be published, probably look for it around May. So May Day, you will be able to buy his autobiography on Amazon. And there's a second book that we're working on. It's with Steve Schaefer, which is an update on the book on uptake and distribution. That was the key book published years ago. I want to, by the way, thank Steve Schaefer because he's the one that helped me with these slides and made them come alive, and that made a big difference. So thanks to Steve. After Ted's death, we had a series of gatherings at our home with friends, relatives, and colleagues. And I'd just like to, in closing, read what they said about him. I think that'll resonate with all of you. Some parts you may know well, and some parts may be new to you. Generous, warm, loving, loved to read poetry and to sing, didn't talk about himself, loved what he did, humble, singing, contented look, remarkable, genteel, OMG, those two, brilliant, so welcoming, love and joy, generous, laughs, love the John Muir Trail, hospitable to book club by serving wine and doing the dishes. Ageless friends, could be any age, never complained, never talked about himself, asked what's new, looking forward, positive, wonderful friend, love of high Sierras and ballet, knew how to have fun, lived in the moment, curious, devoted to Lynn, lovey-dovey. So I hope you've enjoyed sharing these personal memories of our wonderful 21 years.